Thank you all for being here for a discussion about the role and experiences of Black photographers, the second in our series of 3 panel discussions connected to the Gage Gallery's current virtual exhibition, Black Summer, Race, Resistance, and Resilience. My name is Mike Ensdorf, and I teach photography in the Journalism and Media Studies program here at Roosevelt University. I'm also the founder and director of the Gage Gallery at Roosevelt. I'm delighted and honored to introduce tonight's moderator and Black Summer's guest curator, Vanessa Charlot. Vanessa is a Haitian-American documentary photographer, filmmaker, lecturer, and emerging curator working in Miami, Florida, and St. Louis, Missouri. She holds a Bachelor of Arts in English Literature and Sociology from Florida Atlantic University. In her work, Vanessa explores the immutability of the collective human experience by aesthetically disrupting compositional hierarchy through the use of primarily black and white images. She focuses on the intersectionality of spirituality, socioeconomic issues, and sexual and gender expression within marginalized communities. The purpose of her work is to produce visual representations of varied human existences that are free of an oppressive gaze. Her photographs have been published in the New York Times, Oprah Magazine, Vogue, The New Yorker, Rolling Stone, The Atlantic, New York Magazine, The Guardian, ArtNet News, BuzzFeed, Apple, and other publications. And now I'll turn it over to Vanessa and this evening's panelists for their introductions and our panel discussion.
Thank you so much, Mike. It is an honor to be here with you guys this evening. And it's also, I'm thrilled actually to be introducing 4 prolific photographers, photographers that I admire. And I hope that them talking about their work and them sharing their work will be as impactful and meaningful to you as it has been to me. The purpose of the exhibit is to provide an intimate look into Black communities during the height of the protests in 2020. It was important to humanize Black life in America while discussing the pains, hardships, and real effects of racism. Moreover, it was to explore the idea that sometimes authentic stories often don't make it into America's mainstream discourse, and to utilize the voices of these photographers that have participated in this exhibit to bring to light what's really, really happening in communities in a very complex and nuanced way, but that one that is actually authentic. The other thing is the purpose of the exhibit was to show the power and impact of centering Black bodies in photographs and how that disrupts the photographic landscape, especially when the person behind the lens is a person of color as well. And lastly, what I hope to do with this exhibit is to demonstrate that the struggle towards freedom, equality, and justice goes beyond race. And this is something that's a universal theme to us all. I'm going to create the space for these 4 photographers to introduce themselves, to tell me where they're from, and the purpose of their work, and we're going to go into that more. So first would be Dee Dwyer from DC.
Hello, everyone. Hi, how are you, everyone? Thank you all for being here. Thank you, Vanessa, for putting this amazing panel, amazing exhibition together. My name is Dee Dwyer. I am from Southeast DC in Washington, DC. I call it the hidden place behind the White House. It's a predominantly Black community filled with a lot of high crime, poverty, but also a lot of Black joy. And yeah. And I've been a photographer for many years. I want to say since I was a teenager. I'm not going to tell y'all how long ago that was, but it was a minute ago. But I first picked up the camera because I just love to see Black joy. That definitely inspired me to do so. I actually have a BFA in filmmaking and visual production, and that's pretty much where I learned the skills that I have when it comes to still photography. I've been a professional photographer, I want to say, for the past 4 years. Last year, of course, as we all know, it was a very critical year for us all, a very life-changing year for us all. I picked up the camera and did, what I normally do, which is tell the stories of my people, of Black people, and the world. So I spent many hours, many days, many weeks, many months, a year being on the front line of this pandemic. Right?
Yeah, we're going to get into that. Thank you so much for the introduction, Dee.
No problem.
The next person is Jon Cherry.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, John.
Hi, Vanessa. Hi, Dee.
Hey.
Nice to finally be in the same room with all three of us, and then the addition of everybody else who will be introduced as well. I just want to publicly express my gratitude to Vanessa for being in such a, as an early career guest curator. You're really knocking it out of the park. And I think you brought together a lot of really amazing, talented individual folks of color to express ourselves over something that was very highly publicized and also very highly disputed last year. And it wasn't easy for any of us, but this combination of artists and all of our imagery really speaks to each other. And I'm honored. I guess that's all I'm trying to say. I'm honored. Thank you.
And where are you from, John?
I'm originally from Fort Bragg, North Carolina. I'm a military brat. Both my parents were in the Air Force, and we moved around a whole lot and eventually settled in the late 90s in a place called Louisville, Kentucky, which is where I still reside.
Nice.
Louisville, Kentucky is an interesting place because it is kind of born on the blood of people of color, Native Americans, and of Black people. Primarily the protest zone of Jefferson Square Park and Justice Square, Breeway. It's got all kinds of names. It used to be an old, slave stage where, people would bring enslaved people from up the river, and that's where everyone would be displayed, was on the steps of City Hall. And so that little bit of history known while shooting in those areas kind of adds to the content, adds to the weight of the content, I think. But I first started shooting the protest last year on May 28th, the evening of May 28th. My best friend shot me a text message and told me that seven people had been shot downtown in the protests, which was the first night and nobody knew what was happening. And so we suited up, and I grabbed my camera and we went down. And I'd never been in a riot or a protest type of scenario. Be honest with you all, I never really liked taking photos of people. I was always kind of like a food and beverage, events, landscape, wildlife kind of guy. But I really found a true calling in photojournalism that night, and spent, I think it was like the next 48 consecutive days shooting, and spent, pretty much my entire photojournalistic career has been made and still remains in Jefferson Square Park.
Wow. The next person we're going to be bringing up, thank you for that, John, is Kay Hickman.
Hello.
Hey, Kay.
How you doing?
Hey.
My name is Kay Hickman. I live in New York. And I've been documenting for about 7 years now. That's when I decided to pick up a camera professionally and just record my community and the the different nuances of it.
Awesome. and lastly, we have Malik Marble.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
What's up, Malik?
Hey everybody. Hey everybody out there watching. My name is Malik Marble. I'm raised on the south side of Chicago. So when you think about Chicago, you think about Derrick Rose, thinking about Kanye, you think about everybody else. But on the dark side of the whole thing about Chicago, Chicago is like one of the most segregated cities in the world. So a lot of Black population on the south side of Chicago never been downtown to Chicago, and they've been there their whole life. So you know, I was raised there at a point in time in my life. That's where my dad's from, and my mom is from Compton, California. So I got parents from some of the toughest cities in the world. But I felt like my calling with photography was just basically just expressing myself. I actually first picked up my camera while I was an undergrad, and I was getting my bachelor's in exercise science, and now I just finished my master's in teaching. So I'm a teacher now. However, I always was doing film photography, so I develop it, I scan it, I do all of that type of stuff. So when last year with all the protests and stuff like that, I didn't go to a protest actually, just because I felt like because everybody, then there's no shade to anybody actually going to the protests and documenting what was happening, but there were so many people doing the same thing, you know what I'm saying? And I feel like this is going to be the perfect time for many Black photographers to be exploited by major companies and trying to document Black life. Of course, who can document Black life? Black photographers. But when it gets to the point where you have a panel of all these companies asking, hey, we need Black photographers, and you have this whole panel of 1,000 Black photographers, it sounds like exploiting Black photographers to me. So I'll talk more about that, but yeah.
You know, that's an interesting perspective, and let's jump into that. Because part of the reason why I chose you, Malik, to be a part of the exhibit is because I found your work to be striking, but also difficult. And we're gonna go through the work later on. You have a photograph where you have a man holding a rope around his neck, right? And just thinking about what that means in the midst of what was happening, right? And just the symbolic things about it. So here's my first question to you, Jon. What do you think your role is, thinking about like the intersectionality of your own identity while documenting the summer of 2020, or even just your own community? Like, what role do you play?
It's a really interesting question, because I am, to some obviously mixed race, but to others not so obviously. And I grew up in primarily white circles. I was homeschooled through middle school and high school. So, all of my schooling was done by my Black mother, but all of my friend groups growing up, my father was a white man. So I think I associated with him and socialized a lot like he did. And we moved where he did. And so my exposure to the Black community has really only been through my family. So whenever the protests in 2020 started on May 28th, that night, that entire summer was more exposure to Black folks than I had ever had in my entire life consecutively. So it was the role. It's not as much about the role that I played in the protests, because I think that role, was publicity. It was, the first like 8 days or so, people hadn't known anything about Breonna Taylor and her death by LMPD for a couple of months. She died on March 13th. Protests in Louisville started on May 28th. And they started in reaction to May 25th killing of George Floyd. And I think that the community found its likeness and found its own heartbreak that was very similar to what happened to George Floyd here. But I remember those first 8 or 9 days, it was the exact opposite of what Malik said. There were no photographers out there. There was myself for the first few days, and that was it. There were a couple of like local outlets, but I remember just feeling that injustice of like, this is some really big stuff happening in this town with the kind of police force that we have, and how militarized they are against these people who are mostly peacefully protesting. For this to not be on national news, it almost felt like it was being shoved under the rug. And whenever other photographers came and joined, local photographers, it was local photographers who made, I think, the biggest difference than anybody else that they sent to town, that either these big outlets or these big news networks sent to town. But back to my original point about just my own inclusion and exposure to the Black community and how people at Jefferson Square Park pulled me in, how people really watched my back. You know, it was the effect that the protests and the community out there had on me is tenfold. My life has been so much more enriched, connecting with my roots a little bit more. Like, historical roots is one thing, book smarts and book knowledge about the African diaspora is one thing, but then, you know, actual real life knowledge with no preconceived notions.
Yeah.
Community. Thank you.
Go ahead, Kay, jump in. What were you saying, Kay?
Oh, I just added the word community to what John was saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
A big part
Yeah.
of it as well.
So Kay, let me ask you this. What impact did it have on you personally and photographically? Being in a city, because you're in Brooklyn, right?
Yeah, I am. Yeah.
Right, Brooklyn.
Definitely a lot of photographers, a lot of press out there documenting everything. But for me, I guess I kind of want to provide like a counter narrative, because I saw a lot of people documenting, just like the fires, like police cars being set on fire, and just the negative of it. But when I went out, like, I saw mostly like communities supporting each other. Like, people, bought hand sanitizer and like food and just like passed it out to people. So I really felt like the support. And even though it was like, took a toll on me emotionally as well, because, we were out there protesting, but, it was a good dynamic. I felt supported in, being out there.
That's beautiful, because I think that's something that is not told enough. Mm-hmm. And Dee, your work, for a lack of better terms, like, I love how gutter it is. Like, it's so honest. And so when I see, like, some of the gentlemen that you photograph, and they're tatted, like they're quote unquote street dudes, they're hood dudes, they're dudes that are from Southeast DC.
Yes.
And they remind me, because I'm a Miami native. Oh, yeah. They remind me of like my brothers and my cousins and men that I love and I grew up with. Mm-hmm. How were you able to capture such intimate and honest moments in the height of something like that?
I don't know. For me, it just comes natural, like, I am from the hood. I'm from the ghetto. So like, my people and I, like, we just have, we can be in a crowd and we can spot each other. It's like, hey, I'm going to them and we speak the same language, the same body language, the same verbal language, all of that. So I just gravitate towards my people and they literally gravitate towards me. When I go out, I never think of, okay, what am I about to do? Because I have some colleagues who are not Black. They try to map out exactly what they are going to do. Even some who are Black, it's only a small amount, that try to like say, I'm going to go out for this cover. I'm going to go out for this and that. I literally go out with just like good vibes. That's it. Like, that's all I want to do. If I'm going out to document chaos, no matter what it is, I make sure my energy is right. And literally, as soon as I go in, it literally comes to me, and that's just what it is. Yeah.
That's what's up. Thank you for saying that. Malik, let me ask you this. How important it is, do you think, that the person behind the lens reflects the identity of those that are in front of the lens?
Necessarily.
Like, do you think that is important?
For sure. So, for example, with the protest being Black and then the protesters being Black, of course, I feel like as a Black man, Black woman, I feel like you identify you can identify what your race is going through necessarily. So and it is very controversial to like really speak on, because you're just documenting what your people are going through. We done seen what happened for these past 400 years and so on and so on. So it's to the point where there's nothing to be explained anymore. Like, we know what's going on. And just like with the protest that happened last year, and I feel like this one was the real turning point. It was just a lot of black people saying, "All right, bro, enough is enough. We just can't do it no more." So, of course, how does the public? What do they assume? How we not? We supposed to react to that. So, and in my perspective, when that was going on, it was just like, for example, people in the hood, they see this every day. The south side of Chicago, the southeast side of DC, they see this every single day. This is just on the mainstream of, the loss of Breonna Taylor or the loss of George Floyd. But there's countless of young teenage boys getting killed by the police.
Yeah.
I'm talking about, you're talking boys, girls, white paint police, wrap them up just like that. So, it was a different, the energy that I felt was different. And it did break my heart, I think, because it was just, it broke my heart, but in the right direction, because then I actually saw that black people were actually coming together. And necessarily. So, because, they, of course, down in, like, on the south side of big cities and stuff like that, they always talk about black on black crime and how we don't come together. But when black people do come together, then it seems to always be a problem, especially with a situation like that.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Good point. This is for anybody that wants to answer this question. Did you find it difficult to remain objective while documenting what was happening? And the reason why I say that is because, like, I was documenting in the streets of St. Louis, and comparable to you, Jon, there were not a lot of photographers in the streets, right? Especially after the Ferguson uprising. People are just scared. People are scared to photograph. People are also scared to raise up and say anything, even though St. Louis is very politically active. The Ferguson uprising, but also the fact that, the Klan is here, the Proud Boys are here, all those people are here. People are legitimately afraid. And so, like, that was something that I found myself asking myself, like, when I'm taking these photographs, am I being objective? And am I even being objective as to how I'm telling this story, right? Because I'm always sensitive to the fact that history is always told from the position of the victor, and not the victim. So you get whatever pleases, whatever powers R&B at that time. So for anyone, was it difficult to remain objective when documenting?
It was. For me, it was. Just seeing how, like, the cops, like, barricaded, like, their, the precincts around here and everything. It just, I just, like, hated the fact that they were even, like, in the community, and their presence was so, like, active in, like, the protests.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And, like, they didn't really do anything to protect protesters. They just
I
feel like they were more against. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was just an interesting dynamic, and it was hard to remain objective. And,
I completely agree. What about you, Dee? Was it difficult for you?
I feel like it's one of those situations, especially like this specific story, or whatever you want to call it, experience. It's one of those situations where it is what it is. So I literally was documenting what it was, like revealing what it was. And, I would say it became hard for me to remain remain with my journalist hat on, because DC is a small city, you know, so like a lot of those protesters on the front lines I grew up with. I know them. These are my friends. I broke bread with them. You know what I mean?
Right.
So to see them on the front lines and to see like white supremacists come into town, come into the city, threaten them, pull out knives, guns, all types of stuff. These are people that I genuinely care about and I love, you know? So it was hard for me to try to just come in and take pictures and then get out. You know what I mean? And not interfere. I try to say, hey, listen, you know, it's 50 of them around the corner. They have guns. Run. You know what I mean? I had to put humanity first in a lot of situations, and that's just what it was. Like, I couldn't be like the Bang Bang Club. You know, for those that don't know, they were a group of white photojournalists who documented South Africa's apartheid during the 1990s. I couldn't just go in and just document, you know, my friends possibly about to lose their lives, and then I just walk away with a photo. So I would say that was like a big struggle for me. That was just like a huge struggle for me. And at the end of the day, I put humanity first, and I told the story for what it was, because it was literally just out there, like, you know what I mean, in your face.
Yeah.
I feel who they were right then and there. So, yeah.
You know what? That's so real, because I think that the media, or even just people on the outside, don't understand that, like, this is literally your community.
Yes.
Like, you know these people. They knew you since you were young. They are your friends. They are your family members.
Yeah.
And so, you know, like, you're really sensitive as to how they're projected, but also like how you photograph them. And like, you're so emotionally invested in what's happening, right? Like, you know, I remember thinking to myself that this is more than just like a hashtag. This is more than just something that's trending.
Yes.
You know, like, for me personally, and both you and I, Dee, like, we're mothers, right?
Yes.
So like, just thinking about, like, this could be my son.
Yeah.
Or this could be my sister.
Yeah.
Or, you know, like, it's so personal. Let me ask you this, Jon. Knowing how the media presents our community, how did it affect your approach and your practice? So, because I remember you said before, like, you were like photographing landscapes and food and events and things like that. So, like, being mindful of how Black and brown bodies are presented across the American, you know, mainstream media, what was your approach like?
So for me, for
Mm-hmm.
the longest time, for me, photography was just like another way to hustle. It was like another way to like make some extra scratch on the side. And I never really considered it an art form, but something that was always really important to me was representation, or the lack thereof. And how often you see Black people portrayed in media in a negative light, undignified. And so that was kind of like how I went out and how I wanted to compose, without altering the story, without omitting certain things, and without including things that weren't actually there. Was trying to show like dignity within these like really either mournful, angry, or joyous situations, stuff that people wouldn't see unless they were there and saw it with their own eyes. And that's kind of how, that's like the journalistic approach. Sorry, my dogs are outside. You can hear them from but that's been kind of my approach that has stuck with me over the past year of entering this new field of work for myself, is you know, just displaying people with dignity no matter what they're doing, showing, as Dee said, just depicting humanity. And you know, there are a lot of situations that, you know, I would go out to the protest zones every day and shoot, and then I would go home and I would edit my photos and I would post them or share them or whatever. And I would see the difference between what I was posting and what was being picked up by outlets from other photographers that were stringers, or they were staff photographers come to town. And it was really surprising. You never saw any of the food giveaways. You never saw the people singing and dancing. You never saw people hugging. All you saw was that line of riot cops through the cloud of tear gas and somebody throwing a brick, or, you know, something of that nature. It was never the full like encompassing story.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because all of those things are all part of all a part of the protests.
Yes.
And
Oh, yeah, for
people are a
sure.
lot more. They're a lot more full and more well-rounded than they're portrayed in the media.
Yeah, like they're totally presented as like these one-dimensional beings, right?
Yep. The only reason that person came down there that night was to go throw a cop at this riot cop.
Right.
Or throw a brick at this riot cop. That was the only reason.
Right. Like it's sad. Okay, let me ask you this, Malik. With your portraits, and you photograph beautifully, by the way, what message are you trying to convey? Like, what are you trying to say with your work?
So how I do it is I just basically try to make you find your own perspective in it. But from my perspective, during that time and forever on, I feel like just when I'm documenting Black bodies and stuff like that, I actually just want to show you that whatever you're going through, look how beautiful you are. Like, you just look how beautiful you are. So with those protests going on, and I think just the whole African American community was at an all-time low. Every day we seeing photos of, cops, really just basically destroying these communities and stuff like that. So of course, people are really just, there's a lot of hatred, of course, and all that type of stuff. But just like, for example, one of the portraits that you guys showed today, of the woman that I took, and basically the Black woman to me is the most hated woman on planet face of the earth. You guys go through the most I've ever seen in my life. But through all of that, y'all are still the strongest. You know what I'm saying? Just like, that's why I got so much respect for my mom, my grandma, and stuff like that, because you guys are the strongest. So regardless of whatever's going on, you're still strong. So in my portraits, I want to show the beauty. All right, because of course, just being Black is just hard. It's hard enough. You can't do things that certain, like, for example, another reason why I was contemplating going to a protest is because of me just being a teacher. Me being a teacher, and for example, somebody get a picture of me at a protest, and then they go back to the school district and be like, "Hey, he was out here today," or I got a camera that look like a gun, and police like they just try to say, "Hey, he got a gun," and then I lose my life. So there was a lot of things that I thought about that just made me just stray away. But at the same time, I was still working because I didn't really necessarily see a lot of photographers doing this. A lot of photographers were just documenting the protests every single day. Some were actually documenting stuff, I feel like, just genuine, true from their heart, but a lot were just really trying to document stuff to actually be, put their name into the pot of, famous photographers, or get there. And I feel like that's not what it's about.
Yeah.
So, and like I say about, like, when I was talking about, like, exploiting. So, I recall now all of a sudden all these big companies are talking about now Black Lives Matter, and now all of a sudden now Black photographers matter. We Black photographers, we just didn't start 2020. We've been here. I don't know how long we've been here, but we've been here. So now why all of a sudden now everything that's going on now, all of a sudden Black photographers matter. Now we need to hire all Black photographers to go out to protest. So I think about stuff like that. Necessarily I wasn't going to be set up to be no pawn and just put my name on no list and basically I didn't want to be remembered as a Black photographer I didn't want to be remembered as a Black photographer that showed my people struggling in a protest, or basically almost losing their life in a protest. So that's another reason why I didn't necessarily go to a protest. So yeah.
You know what? I think that there is something rather sadistic about the commodification of Black paint. It is very it's twisted in a way, right? Like I remember when George Floyd was killed, that was a video that was shared everywhere, right? And I think that people didn't realize that in America there is this obsession with watching Black life be drained out of the body, right? Which is why lynchings was a public event, which is why the concepts of picnic came into being, where people would go to the park and watch Black bodies be lynched. And so George Floyd was definitely that. Right? And so like that's a part of like the American, it's like a part of the fabric of the society. So here's a question that Natasha asked, which is, what are some rituals or things that you do to take care of yourself emotionally, mentally, etc.? Dee, I will start with you.
I listen to music, lots of Afro beats. I really feel like the beat is a upper, you know what I mean? It brings you up. Everybody knows Burna Boy is my guy. He really makes my day better, for real. Definitely light my incense. Being around people who have a sense of humor. Like, I don't like being around dark people, although I know the past, year and years, even just for Black people, is dark. You know what I mean? You always have to be paranoid, especially if you have darker skin, like you're a target no matter what. But I'm always around funny people. I have a good sense of humor.
That you do.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm a big kid for real. And I like to go around my people, like I like to pop in through the hood sometimes. It's just, although it's a lot of pain there, but everybody's going through something. So we just make the best out of what we can make the best out of. And I travel. Like, if I have to take a break, I take a break. Like, I know how to, I just feel like I just have a natural way of healing myself. Like, I know how to say, you know what, I'm going to shut down and I'm going to disappear real quick, and I'm out, and I'll be back when I see you guys.
Right. No, that disconnecting is definitely important.
Yes, it is really important.
Yeah. What about you, John? What do you do to take care of yourself?
So I've found that like a good sex life is very important.
Right.
I mean, and that's not even like from a conflict photojournalist standpoint. It's just good for you, right? Hydration. I like cooking a lot. I find that taking time in the kitchen and sitting and cooking some of my favorite meals for myself or for my partner or for my friends, that's some really restorative, action for me. Just turning it all off, not going out and shooting for a while. Now, I'm a photojournalist full time, but I wasn't that way before, and I would have to take breaks, particularly when I was only shooting protests and conflict and angry people and sad people. And, you expose yourself to that for a long time, and, you're saturating yourself with only bad energy and negative, other than what you bring to the table, trying to come as an objective person. You soak all of that in. And so just taking breaks from shooting, putting the camera down, sometimes just going, like I would go, it didn't happen often, but I would go to the protest without my camera and just try to like connect with people, pop in and say hi, just riding my bike down to Jefferson Square Park and just like see how everybody's doing. I used to say this, I'm gonna go check on the square. I'll be right back. And so, yeah, I mean, that's one thing for me. It's really hard to put down the camera. I shoot every single day. I'm used to taking them with me. And sometimes it's nice to not have them, to not even have that option of picking up something, not even have that option of documenting something. You just gotta control yourself. But yeah, hydration, sex, music,
and cooking. What about you, Kay?
Definitely like knowing when to turn it off and just like shut down and reconnect with nature. Like I would find myself like, in the park, just like, taking a breather. And also music. Music is a big aspect of my life and just like a healing to me. So, yeah.
That's awesome. And lastly, Malik.
I'm pretty sure, music. I listen to a lot of old music, honestly.
Okay, so who's your favorite old, like to the audience. Who's your favorite old school singer? Let's see how good you are, Malik.
Well, I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm gonna be straight up. Since I figured out I was Nigerian, I've always been listening to him for like since I was a little kid. But Fela Kuti is my favorite artist of all time.
Yes.
I literally and Fela Kuti, his music, I swear would be like 15 minutes straight, and I listen to him a lot. I listen to Wizkid. I like Wizkid a lot. Mm-hmm. I really like Wizkid. I didn't know he was that talented. I've been for the past 2 weeks. I've been listening to his album from front to back. Just when I go to work, to the school, I listen to him all day. I like Wizkid a lot. Kendrick Lamar is still my favorite. Kendrick, Common, and I love Common.
What did you say, T?
I said you gotta have J. Cole.
Yeah, I like J. Cole, but I don't try to get into that argument with K. Dot and J. Cole.
No.
I mean, they're both good.
Yeah, they're both good. But who do I prefer? I listen to K. Dot more, but I listen to Pac a lot. I've been listening to Tupac. But necessarily for my mental health, like I said, I listen to a lot of music. I'll listen to the same song all day and get ideas. That's how I work. So certain songs that just really touch me, like I recall myself listening to a song like 40 times in one day. Wow. I just find ideas that way. I think it's probably because I got OCD or something like that or whatever they be talking about. But I play my game. You know, I got one of those PS5s and I do that. I actually do poetry now. I've been starting to write down my thoughts. I think that's been helping me a lot. And actually, you know, putting my camera down a lot, like I feel like it's just dependent on the person. I know a lot of people that, you know, like John said, you know, he got to keep his camera. He got to pick it up at all times. And majority of the time, I swear to you guys, I pick up my camera. I shoot very random. Like I'll shoot for like 2 days, like 2 weeks straight, and will not touch a camera for like 2 months. And like, cause I got a lot of stuff that is archived and stuff like that. So a lot of stuff that I be, you know, but even when I'm at work, I'm looking at my photos, I'm editing photos and stuff like that. And so I consistently do it. It's just at times I have to put my camera down because, you know, I have like, you know, what is it called? Writer's block or something like that, where people they're not inspired. And at times I'm not even inspired. But, you know, when I am, then I go full fledged and then I got to do this. It's got to be this certain type of way. And I feel like I am a perfectionist. So for sure.
Gotcha. Thank you for answering that. Here's the next question. And this is for Dee. Oh. What challenges have you faced when documenting systematic inequality? Have the challenges you faced when documenting systematic inequality been acknowledged by your Caucasian counterpart? Someone that is in. Okay. Have the challenges you faced when documenting systemic inequality been acknowledged by your Caucasian counterpart?
Have it been acknowledged?
Yeah.
So I would say, like, when I was working with white people, like, I feel like the last time they've acknowledged that, well, no, I take that back. We have meetings at my job. So I work for a newsroom. They have, you know, in the past, taken accountability for, you know, the way that they've reported in the past and, you know, they said they tried to change.
Okay. Okay. All right, so we can leave that there. All right, so we're gonna look at so we're gonna look at your work. And so what we're gonna do is the first image, you're gonna speak to that image, and then the second image, I'm going to speak to why I chose that image. Okay. So first we're gonna look at the work of Jon Cherry. Maybe? Let's see. Okay, yes, there you go.
I love it.
So John, let's speak to that image.
So this photo was taken on June 15th, 2020, which is a day that will live in infamy for the entire rest of my life. If you want to go to my website and look at the gallery for June 15th, it's like otherworldly action. I've never seen anything like this. This was the 18th day of protest. I had just gotten down to the square with my big white friend who was kind of acting as like my bodyguard. He would like kind of he would just like watch my back and pull me out of like hairy situations. But he was also a medic as well for the protest. So when we showed up, he got a call on his radio that somebody had been hit by a semi truck down on 9th and Jefferson Street. And so we ran like 4 blocks down. He ran fast as hell. He's a big rugby player. So he ran down there. He was like a block ahead of me the whole time. And we got down there, and if you look at the person on the right who's being held, he has a bandage around his leg. So he got hit by the semi truck, and he is being helped past by the fellow on the left. Now, these two guys over the course of the protest, we'll call the guy on the left F, call the guy on the right Y. They're both from the California neighborhood of Louisville, which is it's west of the 9th Street Divide. Louisville is also, it's known as the most segregated city in the country. So everything past the 9th Street Divide, west of 9th Street, pretty much half of Louisville is predominantly black neighborhoods. And California neighborhood is what you would call like the roughest one. And dude on the left is a longtime Crip, and dude on the right is a longtime Blood, and they are inseparable. Wow. And if you scroll up just a little bit, you can see the reflection of the guy in the semi who hit him.
Wow.
And so this is one of my favorite images from last year.
I love the backstory. Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
And adds a new perspective.
And these dudes have always stayed consistent, as like wishy-washy as the movement in Louisville has been. Like they're still my favorite. I just saw them yesterday. There was an Easter celebration down at Jefferson Square Park. And I like every time we see each other, we're always pumped to see each other because it's just like they're the only ones who have been just consistent, just gutter, just I don't know. They're some of my favorite people in the world, and I met them through all this protest action. Somehow they found brotherhood through it. So it's a beautiful thing to see.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.
The next image is this is an image that I've found very powerful. Not only because of what the gentleman is holding, the sign, No More Blood, but also you can see that there are a lot of people in the shadows. Mm-hmm. And it makes me think about how many people we don't know their names who have lost their lives. And like history has this uncanny way of repeating itself. Mm-hmm. So just like it's almost like, to me, the people almost look like ghosts of the past to a certain extent. And I love the shadows. I love like how you can kind of make out these obscure body shapes. And so you don't see their faces, but the fact that he's carrying this sign alludes to like what's happening and why people were out there. So I really, really like this image. The next photographs we're going to look at are from Dee. Dee, did you choose this one or did I? I think I chose that one. Okay, so I'll speak to this one. And you can speak to the next one, Dee, because I think I sent that.
No, I would love to talk about this.
Oh, you want to talk to it? Okay, go ahead.
I would love to talk about this image. So this image was actually, so this was at the Defend Black Women March put on by Black Lives Matter and a few other organizations. This is actually the night that they toppled the statue of Robert Lee in DC too. So this was a wild day from the beginning to the end. But this specific moment, I have met these guys. They were just released from prison. So like you can tell they were just released out of prison. They had the you know, the shower shoes on that they wear in prison. They had the T-shirt, you know, just the whole prison style, attire, everything. He was with his friend who was his cellmate, and all of that. So they came down there. They said that they were down there to defend Black women. I was just like, oh, okay, y'all just, you know, came straight out of prison. They were released like I think like 2 weeks. I don't even know if it had even been 2 weeks because they didn't have a lot of clothes. Like they were still like in their prison, you know, attire. And I met them, like it was a go-go band playing in DC. Go-go culture here is really big. It's spiritual. We include a lot of African instruments, you know, the African drums, all of that. So they had that to end, you know, their segment, their speech. And he and his friend, they were just over dancing. I mean, they were just a vibe, guys. And I gravitated towards them. I was just like, who are you all? Because I noticed that a lot of the media, they just wanted to focus on the people, the other people, the band, the speakers and stuff. But I saw them and I was just like, you know, I started talking to them. And this guy right here, I just love his whole attitude. First of all, he didn't know me. But we started talking. We had a long conversation. I told him a little bit about my life. I even told him, you know, I'm a single mother. Like we just really connected. And I told him my story. And I love how he was just like, anything you need, sis, you know, I have you, whatever you need me to do, I got you. You know, that's the Black language. But I love this moment because you can tell that he's going through a lot of hardships. Like even just talking to him, you could tell that psychologically he's affected, of course, by being in prison for so long. Like he was in jail for like over 5 years. And he got out of jail his, you know, pretty much his entire life. But I love this moment of him just being so calm. And, you know, I feel like I documented his innocence. You know what I mean?
He looks so vulnerable.
Right?
Yeah, it's such a tender moment.
Yes. But then I also love his tattoos. I love how he has "fuck you" written across his eyelids too. So he's like,
right,
you know, I'm nice and I'm sweet, but then also
that's another part of me. Yeah.
I carry a lot.
He looks very pretty, you know.
Yeah. And facial features, everything. He's beautiful. His eyes are beautiful. Everything is beautiful about him. Unfortunately, he's just somebody that just had to become, you know, he's a product of his environment. And coming to find out, we grew up around the corner from one another. So we started naming people that we knew. It was just a beautiful moment, you know, that we ended up connecting. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you for that backstory, Dee.
Yeah.
The next image.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
So, this was definitely deep. It was a crowd in front of what is it called? The White House. A crowd in front of the White House. You know, I tried to like block out that situation, but it's a crowd in front of the White House. So near Black Lives Matter Plaza. It's an area, you know, where people just like congregated to, and everyone was standing listening to people give their speeches. And I saw this young girl, a little girl. She reminded me of my daughter. My daughter is a young activist. Like she's very outspoken. She creates art that definitely, you know, depicts what's happening in the world. So I just saw my daughter in her. I saw her holding this sign, you know. Her brother was not too far away. So just to see this young girl that's around my daughter's age, standing up for her big brother, I don't know, I just saw the potential in her as a future activist, and just how bold she is, how aware she is. Oftentimes, like I used to be an educator, and a lot of leadership, a lot of people used to always say, you know, they're just kids, you know, kind of like wave them off. But I spent a lot of time with kids like her who were socially aware and bold and outspoken. So I just admire her strength and her fearlessness. Yeah.
Yeah, she's a precious baby girl.
Yeah.
All right, so let's look at Kay's image.
Okay.
I think I chose that one.
Yes, yeah, you did.
And I want to say that I think you told me that they were walking across the Brooklyn Bridge.
Yes.
Yes. So, you know, like the location is iconic for a lot of reasons, right? It's the Brooklyn Bridge. And what I found to be really cool is that how diverse the crowd was. And like even the line going down the middle speaks to just like the separation in the country. Aesthetically, I love the lines in it. Like I think it's a beautifully composed image. But just symbolically, you know, it makes me think of the Freedom Riders. It makes me think of like both young Black and white folks getting out there and being vocal about what's going on. Let's look at the next image.
Yeah, so this was photographed at Calvin Plaza in Brooklyn, and this is Royal G. But he, like, I guess earlier, like before this was taken, it was a memorial for George Floyd, and Terrence Floyd, his brother, spoke and everything, and it was just like really emotional. But I just love this photo because it was like after, like, I guess 10,000 people had like cleared out of this place. And yeah, and like he was just standing there, and it's just like, you know, singling him out, and he has like the flag and the army fatigues and everything. So it's just like him representing, you know, the many. Like I don't know, I love this moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It also makes me think about like the American hypocrisy, right? For him to have like on the flag of the land of the brave and of the free and all that.
Yeah, so much symbolism.
I can't breathe. Yeah, and for him to be in fatigue. Very powerful image. Lastly, let's look at Malik's work.
Wow.
So I actually chose that image, and that's the image I was talking about earlier, with this brother holding the rope. And to be honest, like when I came across Malik's work and I saw this, I was like, I gotta have him. Like I have to. It's so powerful, right? When you see like what's behind him in terms of the building, and it kind of looks like a dilapidated building. Him holding his own rope around his neck, the black body, it makes me think of Billie Holiday's Strange Fruit. And then, you know, like his beautiful hair and how it defies gravity. And so you have this almost like gorgeous black god-like figure with a rope around his neck. It's a beautiful photograph. It's equally to me a haunting photograph. The next image, Malik will speak to that.
So basically, oh yeah, go ahead. Oh, so yeah. I actually wanted to speak about the last image too, if you let me.
Okay, go ahead.
So basically, me and one of my homies, this is during all the protests. And like I said, I didn't choose to go. But I wanted to just basically show the reality of what, for example, just, of course, in this photo, a black man. So necessarily as a black man, you strong, but the system has just basically found different ways for you not to succeed. And however, with the system basically finding ways to not let you succeed, that can, you know, really mess up your mental. So that's where a lot of African American men, they fall into this trap where they're fascinated by the wrong things necessarily. And then all of a sudden, it's basically, what I'm trying to say is basically, regardless of how the system portrays how black men, black women, and necessarily and how it sets them up not to succeed. But at the same time, black people got to figure out how to, you know, find different ways to succeed. So if you're fascinated by materialistic things, you're worrying about the wrong things or necessarily doing just the wrong things in general, you're hanging yourself by a rope too. You are basically limiting all the opportunities that you have. All right, even though they are hard, there's a lot of black people out there that are just influential. They're successful. and they did the right things. So, and like I said, a lot of them, for example, they get into trouble and they get into the prison system. All right, they cut their opportunities short. So that like just basically you hanging yourself by a rope at the same time, you are basically cutting off all opportunities that you do have. So that's the significance of this photo, I believe.
Thank you for providing that context.
Yeah, wow.
So it's actually 8 o'clock.
Oh, it
And
is.
this time, yeah, I know.
It went by so fast.
I know. So here's what I want you guys to do very quickly. I want you to tell me what you got coming up next. Like if you're working on any show projects, where can we find you? And then Mike is going to do the closing. Okay. So Dee, what you got going on next, and where can we find you?
So I have a lot going on. I really do. What my main focus right now is to utilize my filmmaking degree. So I'm working on a few film projects. One is about single mothers. The other one is also about Black photographers. So I have that, and just taking care of my babies and just focusing on being like happy and buying property in Jamaica so I can go ahead and dip out. Because y'all are more than welcome to come when I get.
Yeah, I want to come visit, definitely.
Yeah, right.
And where can we find you?
So you can. I'm big on Instagram. I know I have to step my Twitter game up, but Twitter, Instagram, everything is all the same at Dee Dwyer Joints. We do not say joints, we say joints in DC. So that's why I spell without the I, because people are like, you don't know how to spell. Yes, I do. But it's right here in the tagline.
All right, awesome. John, what do you got going on next, and where can we find you?
So I'm a living, working photojournalist. So I take assignments just about every day, anywhere in the country. So I am pretty much just constantly working. So if you want to keep up with what I'm doing, you can look at my Twitter or my Instagram, which is in this part right here. I have an opportunity coming up, which is going to be like a several month Smithsonian exhibit through the Portland Museum, through the Portland neighborhood here in Louisville, called Votes and Voices. It's going to be depictions of the protests of 2020, plus the election season that I documented and the Capitol insurrection on January 6th. It's going to be all about democracy and various failings of democracy. So that should be pretty prolific. I've got a lot of wall space for it, and I'm really excited about that. And I have a website too, and it's the same as this, just .com behind it.
Nice. Fantastic. Kay, what you got going on, sis?
Yeah, I'm a freelance photojournalist as well. Yeah, so I have, that going. And then I'm working on a project documenting my community of Bed-Stuy. Like it's changing so quickly with like gentrification and everything. I just kind of want to preserve what, I can of like, the historically Black community it once was.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's awesome.
Bed-Stuy
is definitely changing. And K Hickman Photography for everything?
Yeah, K Hickman Photography on Instagram, and I have a website as well.
All right. So khickmanphotography.com for your website. Yeah? Okay.
Yes.
Awesome. And what about you, Malik?
I plan on actually starting to document the South Side of Chicago, actually. So the ins and outs of everything. I feel like it's going to take me a few years to actually get to where I want, but I actually kind of just thought about this about 5 months ago. So I'm gonna actually start getting that together and stuff like that. And that's about it. And at Leak from 87th on Instagram, and my website is whereisleak.com.
Whereisleak.com. Everybody, thank you so much. Hang tight. But thank you so much for being a part of this. This conversation was amazing. To the audience, thank you so much for your questions. And
happy birthday, Dee.
Oh, thank you.
Happy birthday.
Oh, it's your birthday, Dee? Happy birthday.
It was last Tuesday, but you know what?
Oh.
This year that we
celebrate the whole month.
So great. Thank you so much, Vanessa, John, Dee, Kay, Malik, for this insightful and thoughtful discussion. So much to think about, and so much to work on, really. Please visit roosevelt.edu/Black Summer to view the exhibition that has the work that you've seen tonight, as well as 50 plus other images that Vanessa so kindly curated. What a wonderful job. So lucky to have you with us at the gallery, even if it's virtual. And also take a look at the accompanying resources. We have a resource page up, which is has a lot of rich and detailed information. Also, to see more additional powerful work, I would again encourage you to follow Vanessa, John, Dee, Kay, and Malik on Instagram. Their work is amazing and fantastic, and I follow them. I would encourage you to do so as well. And lastly, please follow the Gage Gallery on Facebook for updates regarding our third and final panel discussion, Visual Journalism and Telling Diverse Stories, which will take place later this month. Still working out the date, but if you follow us on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, you'll be informed ASAP. So once again, thank you all for joining us this evening. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you.
Okay.